Commander Lee Hyun stood on the bridge of the orbital defense station, watching the morning shift change through the massive viewport. Earth turned slowly beneath them, blue and peaceful. The coffee in his cup was still warm. He had no idea that, in 30 minutes, everything would change forever. The first alarm came from Sector 7. Lieutenant Park Soo ran to her station, her face pale. "Sir, we have massive energy readings near Mars orbit." Lee Hyun walked over to look at her screen. The readings made no sense. "Check the sensors again." "I already did, sir. 3 times. The energy signature was unlike anything in their databases. It looked like space itself was tearing apart. Dr. Park Mina was in her laboratory on Luna Station when the second alarm sounded. She was studying rock samples from Europa, looking for signs of ancient life. The emergency broadcast interrupted her work. "All stations, this is Mars Defense Command. We have visual confirmation of unknown objects emerging from what appears to be a dimensional rift. Repeat, we have unknown contacts." Park Mina dropped her sample container. She had studied theoretical physics for 20 years. Dimensional rifts were supposed to be impossible. She ran to the observation deck. Through the reinforced glass, she could see Mars in the distance. Even from here, she could see something wrong. Space around the red planet was twisted like looking through water. Dark shapes moved within the distortion. Captain Kim Juno was leading a supply run to the mining stations when his ship's computer started screaming warnings. "Captain, massive gravitational anomalies detected. Recommend immediate course change." "Show." "Me," Kim Juno said. The main screen lit up with sensor data. 3 enormous tiers in space had opened near the asteroid belt. Each tier was kilometers wide. Things were coming through. The first ships that emerged looked wrong. They were too long, too twisted. Their hulls seemed to bend light around them. Kim Juno had been flying for 15 years. He had never seen anything like this. "Get me fleet command," he ordered. Back on the orbital station, Commander Lee Hyun watched the tactical display fill with red contacts. Hundreds of alien ships poured through the rifts. But that was not the worst part. Behind the ships came something else. At first, Lee Hyun thought his sensors were broken. The readings showed biological contacts the size of buildings. Living things that moved through space without any protection. "Sir," Lieutenant Park Soo said quietly, "those life forms, they are not wearing any suits. They are surviving in vacuum." One of the creatures filled the main screen. It looked like a nightmare made real. 6 arms ending in claws, skin that seemed to absorb light, eyes like burning coals. It moved through space as easily as a fish moves through water. "What are we looking at?" Lee Hyun asked. Nobody had an answer. The alien ships reached Earth's orbital defenses first. Lee Hyun ordered all weapons to fire. The laser batteries lit up space with brilliant beams. The missiles streaked toward their targets. Nothing happened. The alien ships passed through the weapons fire like it was not there. "Impossible," whispered the weapons officer. The alien creatures reached the surface first. They fell through the atmosphere like meteors, but they did not burn up. They landed. In major cities around the world, Dr. Park Mina watched the news feeds from Earth in horror. The first reports came from Tokyo. A creature had landed in the city center. It stood 3 stories tall. People ran screaming from its presence. But the strange thing was what happened next. The creature did not attack physically. Instead, it seemed to radiate fear. People collapsed from terror just by looking at it. Others went mad and began attacking each other. Similar reports came from New York, London, and Moscow. The creatures were not just monsters. They were living weapons of psychological warfare. Captain Kim Juno tried to reach Earth, but his communications were jammed. Strange voices filled the radio channels. They spoke in a language that hurt to hear. The words seemed to crawl inside his head. Then the voices switched to perfect English. "Species of Earth," the voice said. "You have been selected for processing. Your fear will feed our war machine. Your suffering will power our conquest of this dimension. Resistance is not possible. We have opened the gates of hell itself. Prepare for harvest." The transmission ended with sounds that made Kim Juno's crew physically sick. On Luna Station, Dr. Park Mina worked frantically to understand what was happening. The dimensional rifts were stable. That should have been impossible. The energy required was beyond anything known to human science. She ran calculations on her computer. The readings suggested that the aliens had found a way to punch holes between dimensions. But not just any dimensions. The energy signatures matched theoretical models of what scientists called nightmare dimensions, realities where the fundamental forces worked differently. The creatures were not from space. They were from hell itself. Commander Lee Hyun received reports from around the solar system. The alien ships were not attacking military targets. Instead, they were setting up some kind of amplification devices. The psychological attacks were getting stronger. On Earth, entire cities were falling without a shot being fired. The monsters radiated an aura of despair so powerful that humans lost the will to fight. Some people simply lay down and waited to die, but not everyone. In Seoul, a group of soldiers held their position despite the creature looming over their base. Their commander, Colonel Bae-jun, stood on the walls and shouted orders to his men. "I do not care what that thing is," he yelled over the sounds of terror. "It bleeds, it dies. Find a way to kill it." His soldiers looked up at the monster. It was terrifying beyond description. But something in their commander's voice cut through the fear. They started shooting. The bullets did nothing, but the act of fighting back seemed to weaken the creature's power. The soldiers found they could think more clearly. Similar scenes played out across the world. Humans who refused to give up discovered that the creature's power was not absolute. Fear was their weapon, but courage was its counter. Dr. Park Mina made a crucial observation. The psychological effects were stronger on some people than others. Those who had faced real danger before, soldiers, emergency workers, survivors of disasters, seemed more resistant. "It is like they are designed to break weak minds," she told her research team. "But humans who have been tested by life itself fight back." Captain Kim Juno finally reached Earth orbit. What he saw made his blood run cold. The planet was covered in dark clouds that seemed to move with purpose. Lightning flashed in colors that had no names. The very air looked poisoned. But in some places, light still shone. Cities still fought. Humans still resisted. The alien broadcast came again. This time, the voice sounded confused. "Curious species. Your terror feeds us, but your defiance creates interference. You will submit, or we will increase the pressure." More rifts opened. Larger creatures poured through. The nightmare was just beginning. Commander Lee Hyun looked at his crew. They were afraid, but they had not broken. Good. That meant humanity still had a chance. He opened communications to all human forces. "This is Commander Lee Hyun to all units. The enemy thinks fear is their greatest weapon. They are about to learn what humans do when we get angry instead." 3 days after the first attack, Dr. Choi Dae crawled through the wreckage of Berlin. His research team moved carefully between the destroyed buildings. They were hunting for something that might save humanity. The creature that had attacked. Berlin was dead. It had been killed by a tank crew that refused to run away. The tank shells had not hurt it, but the crew kept firing until something strange happened. The monster simply collapsed and stopped moving. "Take samples of everything," Choi Dae whispered to his team. "Blood, tissue, whatever that black stuff is coming from its wounds." Dr. Lee Min worked beside him with her scanning equipment. "The cellular structure is completely wrong," she said quietly. "These things should not be able to exist in our reality." Back at the temporary research base, they studied their samples under every kind of microscope they had. What they found changed everything. "The creatures are not really alive," Choi Dae announced to the emergency council. "They are more like projections, living ideas forced into physical form." General Ko-hoon leaned forward. "Explain that in simple terms, Doctor." "Think of them as nightmares that someone made real," Choi Dae said. "They exist because people believe they exist. Fear gives them power. But when people stop being afraid, they start to fade." Meanwhile, Sergeant Yoon Hana led her resistance group through the tunnels under Tokyo. Above them, 2 more creatures stalked the streets. But something had changed since the first day. "The monsters are getting weaker," reported Private Nam Jun. "Yesterday, just looking at them made people faint. Today, Mrs. Park from the noodle shop threw a rock at one." Yoon Hana had noticed the same thing. The creatures still looked terrifying, but their power was fading. Humans were adapting faster than anyone expected. They reached their target, a crashed alien ship in Shibuya. The hull was made of some black metal that seemed to bend light. Strange symbols covered its surface. "Be careful," Yoon Hana warned her team. "We do not know what else might be inside." Engineer Nam Tae was already working on the ship's systems. He had been a computer programmer before the invasion. Now he was humanity's best hope of understanding alien technology. "The computer system is organic," he reported. "It thinks instead of calculating, but I can interface with it using electrical signals." What he found in the ship's memory made everyone step back in shock. The aliens called themselves the Vorthak. They had been conquering other worlds for thousands of years. Their method was always the same: open dimensional rifts, release nightmare creatures, feed on the terror and despair of entire civilizations. "They have destroyed 17 different species," Nam Tae read from the alien files. Each conquest followed the same pattern: mass psychological breakdown, population surrender, harvesting of fear energy. But the files also contained something unexpected. Recent reports from Vorthak commanders showed confusion and frustration. "They are calling us an anomalous species," Nam Tae continued. "Listen to this. Human subjects show unexpected resistance to fear-based conditioning. Some specimens display aggressive responses to nightmare stimuli rather than submission behaviors." Dr. Osuna had been studying the human survivors of creature attacks. Her research station in the Swiss mountains had become a refuge for people who had faced the monsters and lived. What she discovered amazed her. The survivors were not broken by their experiences, instead they were stronger. "Tell me about when you saw the creature," she asked a farmer named Kim Won, who had faced one of the monsters alone. "It was big and scary," Kim Won said simply. "But it was trying to eat my chickens, so I hit it with my shovel until it went away." "Were you not terrified?" Kim Won thought about this. "I was scared, yes, but I was more angry. Those were good chickens." This pattern repeated with every survivor Osuna interviewed. Fear was present, but it was mixed with anger, determination, and protective instinct. The creatures that were designed to break human will were instead making humans mad. Back in Mydig's orbit, Commander Lee Hyun coordinated the defense of Earth's remaining cities. The reports from the surface were confusing but hopeful. "Sir, we are getting strange readings from the psychological warfare broadcasts," reported Lieutenant Park Soo. "The Vorthak transmissions are becoming less effective." "Show me the data." The analysis was clear. In the first days of the invasion, the alien fear broadcasts had affected 90% of the population. Now, only 40% showed any reaction. Humans were building up immunity to terror itself. Captain Kim Juno landed his ship in what remained of New York City. He needed to evacuate civilians, but he found something unexpected. The survivors had organized themselves into hunting parties. "We figured out how to hurt them," explained the group leader, a firefighter named Lim Dae. "Physical weapons do not work, but electromagnetic fields mess them up. We have been using police tasers and car batteries." Kim Juno watched in amazement as a group of ordinary citizens surrounded one of the smaller creatures. They carried improvised weapons, modified radios, rewired power tools, anything that generated electrical fields. The monster tried to radiate fear, but the humans just looked annoyed. Yeah, you are very scary," said Lim Dae. "Now hold still while we figure out how you work." They activated their electrical weapons. The creature flickered like a bad television signal, then collapsed into black mist. "That is the 14th. One today," Lim Dae reported proudly. Similar scenes were happening around the world. In London, a group of soccer fans had trapped a creature in Wembley Stadium and were studying it like a science project. In Moscow, babushkas were chasing smaller monsters away with brooms and harsh words. The Vorthak response was swift and confused. More ships arrived through the dimensional rifts, but their crews seemed uncertain. The invasion was not going according to plan. Dr. Choi Dae made another discovery that changed everything. While studying the alien technology, he found evidence that the Vorthak had a weakness. "They are parasites," he announced to the research team. "They feed on fear and despair, but they cannot process other emotions. Human anger and determination are like poison to their systems." Engineer Nam Tae looked up from his work on captured Vorthak equipment. "So what you are saying is that the madder we get, the weaker they become." "Exactly." "In that case," Nam Tae said with a grin, "they picked the wrong species to mess with." The tide was beginning to turn, but the Vorthak were not giving up. Reports came in of larger creatures emerging from the rifts. The enemy was escalating the invasion, but humanity was escalating too. And humans had always been better at getting creative when they were angry. 2 weeks after the invasion began, Captain Song-wook led his strike team through the ruins of Seoul. They carried the first batch of dimensional disruptor weapons that engineer Nam Tae had built from captured alien technology. "Remember," Song-wook told his soldiers, "these things feed on fear, so stay angry instead." Private Cho Min raised his hand. "Sir, how do we stay angry on purpose?" Song-wook thought about his destroyed home, his missing family, and the alien monsters that thought humans were just another species to harvest. "Think about what they took from us," he said quietly. "Then think about what we are going to take from them." The target was a massive creature that had been terrorizing the city for days. It stood as tall as a building, with too many arms and eyes that burned like stars. Local people called it the Soul Devil. As they approached, the creature noticed them. It radiated waves of pure terror that should have sent the soldiers running in panic. Instead, Sergeant Park Ray spat on the ground. "That is the ugliest thing I have ever seen," she announced. "Let's kill it." The dimensional disruptors hummed to life. These weapons worked by disrupting the energy fields that kept the creatures stable in human reality. Nam Tae had based the design on human stubbornness, the simple refusal to accept that some problems could not be solved. Song-wook fired first. The beam hit the creature in what might have been its chest. The monster flickered like a broken hologram, then stumbled backward. "It works," shouted Cho Min, firing his own weapon. "The thing is actually hurt." The Soul Devil tried to increase its fear aura, but something unexpected happened. The more it tried to terrify the humans, the angrier they became. Their anger fed back into the disruptor weapons, making them more powerful. "Keep shooting," Song-wook ordered, "and keep thinking about everything this thing represents." The battle lasted 20 minutes. When it was over, the Soul Devil was nothing but black smoke drifting in the wind. The soldiers stood in the silence, breathing hard. "Sir," said Park Ray slowly, "I think we just proved that these things can be killed." Across the world, news of the Seoul victory spread faster than wildfire. For the first time since the invasion began, humans had definitive proof that the monsters were not invincible. Dr. Lim Hai worked frantically in her laboratory, studying the Vorthak neural interfaces they had captured. What she found changed everything humans thought they knew about the enemy. "The aliens control their creatures through fear-based dominance," she explained to the Emergency Scientific Council. "Their entire society is built on terror hierarchies. The strongest Vorthak control the weaker ones through intimidation. So they are bullies," summarized General Ko-hoon. "Exactly. And bullies have a weakness. They do not know how to handle people who fight back." Lim Hai displayed her research on the main screen. Human emotions like protective anger and righteous fury create interference in their control systems. When we get mad instead of scared, their technology stops working properly. This discovery led to a complete change in human military tactics. Colonel Bae Jun implemented new training programs for all surviving military units. "Forget everything you learned about staying calm under fire," he announced to his troops. "From now on, we train to get angry in a controlled way." The new training was unlike anything in military history. Soldiers practiced channeling their anger while maintaining tactical thinking. They learned to use fury as a weapon while keeping their minds clear for strategy. The results were immediate and remarkable. Human units equipped with disruptor weapons began hunting the creatures instead of hiding from them. The psychological balance of the war shifted completely. Commander Jiang Min coordinated the development of humanity's first interdimensional weapons. These devices could reach through the rifts and attack Vorthak positions in their home dimension. The theory is simple, she explained to her engineering team. If they can send nightmares through the portals, we can send bullets. The first test firing took place from Luna Station. The weapon locked onto a Vorthak ship on the other side of a dimensional rift and fired a concentrated beam of human determination, literally weaponized stubbornness converted into energy. The alien ship exploded in a spectacular display of colors that had no names in human language. "Target destroyed," reported the weapons officer, trying not to sound too excited. "Interdimensional strike successful." More importantly, the other Vorthak ships near the destroyed vessel began retreating. For the first time, the aliens showed fear. The breakthrough battle came at the Atlantic portal, the largest dimensional rift the Vorthak had opened. A creature the size of a mountain had been trying to push through for days. Every conventional weapon had failed to stop it. Captain Kim Juno led a combined fleet of human ships armed with the new interdimensional weapons. But the real secret weapon was not technology, it was human psychology. "All units," Kim Juno broadcast. "I want you to think about everyone we have lost. Think about our destroyed cities. Think about these aliens treating us like cattle to be harvested." The anger that built up across the human fleet was unlike anything the Vorthak had ever encountered. Instead of the fear and despair they fed on, they faced pure, focused rage. The massive creature tried to push through the portal, but the combined fury of the human fleet created a psychic barrier it could not cross. The humans refused to accept that the monster was unstoppable, and their refusal became reality. "Fire all weapons," Kim Juno ordered. The interdimensional barrage hit the creature from 17 different angles. But more than that, each beam carried the concentrated determination of its human operator. The message was clear. Humanity was not impressed by cosmic horror. The mountain-sized monster collapsed and began dissolving. Then something unprecedented happened. The portal itself started to close. Dr. Park Mina, monitoring from Luna Station, could barely believe the readings. "The rift is destabilizing. The human psychic energy is actually forcing it to collapse." The portal snapped shut with a sound like reality itself, sighing in relief. The Atlantic was clear for the first time in 2 weeks. But the victory came with a price. Immediately after the portal closed, every human involved in the battle collapsed from exhaustion. They had literally forced a dimensional rift to close through sheer bloody-mindedness. The Vorthak response was immediate and panicked. Their broadcasts, which had been confident and threatening, now sounded confused and desperate. "Anomalous species. Continues to resist processing," came the alien transmission. "Standard fear harvesting procedures are ineffective. Requesting immediate tactical revision from High Command." Another voice answered, speaking in the same translated speech. "Negative. Continue with enhanced pressure. This species will break like all the others." But there was something in the second voice that made humans listening to the broadcast smile grimly. The Vorthak High Command sounded worried. Engineer Nam Tae made the final breakthrough while studying the closed Atlantic portal. The residual energy patterns showed something remarkable. "We did not just close the portal," he announced to the research team. "We reversed it. For about 3 seconds, we were pulling energy from their dimension instead of them pushing through to ours." "What does that mean?" asked Dr. Choi Dae. Namtae grinned. "It means we figured out how to kick down their front door." As news of the Atlantic victory spread, something changed in the human survivors around the world. The fear that had dominated the early days of the invasion was replaced by something the Vorthak had never encountered before: aggressive curiosity. Humans started to see the dimensional rifts not as sources of terror, but as targets to attack. The creatures that emerged were no longer unstoppable nightmares, but problems to be solved with sufficient application of human stubbornness. The war was far from over, but for the first time since it began, humanity was no longer on the defensive. "Thano, we're getting ready to take the fight to the enemy." General Ko Hoon stood in the rebuilt command center, looking at the global tactical display. 3 weeks had passed since the Atlantic portal victory. Now, instead of red enemy positions covering the map, he saw blue human advance markers moving steadily forward. "Operation Kickback is ready to launch," reported his aide, Major C.O. Rhee. "All units have the new equipment and training." The operation was humanity's first coordinated counterattack. Every surviving military unit on Earth would strike Vorthak positions simultaneously, using weapons that turned human anger into alien destruction. Kohun opened the global communications channel. "All units, this is General Kohun. Today we stop running. Today we start kicking down doors." In the ruins of Tokyo, Lieutenant Ansol led her squad through streets that had been alien territory just days before. Her soldiers carried the latest dimensional disruptors and something even more powerful: complete confidence that the monsters could be beaten. "Movement ahead," whispered Sergeant Kimbo, pointing to a building where 3 creatures lurked. These were smaller than the giants they had fought before, but still terrifying to look at. "Standard approach," Ansol ordered. "Get angry, stay focused, kill everything that glows." The squad moved forward with practiced efficiency. When the creatures tried to radiate fear, the soldiers responded by thinking about their destroyed homes and dead friends. The anger they generated made their weapons twice as effective. The battle was over in minutes. 3 dead monsters, 0 human casualties. "This is getting easier," observed Private Lee Jun, stepping over the remains of what had once been a living nightmare. "Good," said Ansol. "Because according to intelligence, there are about 1,000 more of these things between here and the main portal." Meanwhile, in a dimension that humans had no name for, Dr. Ryu Han led the first human exploration team through landscapes that defied description. The ground was made of crystallized screams. The sky rained liquid despair. Gravity worked sideways on Tuesdays. "Readings are stable," reported Specialist Yoon Gi, checking his dimensional anchor equipment. "We can survive here for another 4 hours before we need to return to normal space." The discovery that humans could enter the hellish dimensions had shocked everyone, including the humans themselves. Other species immediately went insane upon entering these realities. Humans just complained about the working conditions and asked if anyone had brought snacks. "Target located," announced Corporal Park Do, pointing to a massive Vorthak installation in the distance. "Looks like some kind of staging area." The Vorthak facility was designed to process terror from conquered species. Massive machines converted fear into energy, while enslaved demons provided labor. It was supposed to be completely secure in a dimension where no sane being could survive. Unfortunately for the Vorthak, humans were not entirely sane. "Plant the charges," Ryu Han ordered. "Let's show them what we think of their fear factory." The explosions that followed could be seen from 3 different dimensions. The Vorthak lost a major processing center, but more importantly, they learned that nowhere was safe from human interference. Back on Earth, Captain Wanbach made an even more important discovery. His unit had been investigating reports of other, intelligent species held prisoner by the Vorthak. What they found changed the entire nature of the war. The prison was hidden in a pocket dimension accessible through a small portal in the Amazon rainforest. Inside, Wanbach found representatives of 6 different alien species, all of them broken by Vorthak psychological warfare. "Please," whispered one of the prisoners, a being that looked like a cross between a spider and a flower. "Do not let them take us back to the fear chambers." "Nobody is taking you anywhere," Wanbach said firmly. "We are humans, and we are here to get you out." The rescued aliens could barely believe what they were seeing. Humans walking calmly through dimensions that had driven them mad. Human soldiers, treating interdimensional monsters as routine threats to be eliminated efficiently. "How do you resist the terror weapons?" asked another prisoner, a crystalline being from the Vega system. Wanbach thought about this carefully. "I think it is because we grew up on a world where everything was already trying to kill us. Poisonous plants, dangerous animals, natural disasters. We learned to be more stubborn than scared." The liberation of the alien prisoners provided intelligence, that no human strategist had expected. The Vorthak Empire was vast, spanning dozens of dimensions, but it was also fragile. Their entire system depended on psychological dominance. "They rule through fear," explained Zektar, one of the rescued aliens who had once been a military commander. "If their subjects stop being afraid, the whole structure collapses." This information reached Dr. Xin Yan, who was working on humanity's most ambitious project yet. If the Vorthak controlled their demons through fear, perhaps the demons could be freed through other emotions. "The theory is sound," she explained to her research team. "These creatures were not originally evil. They were corrupted by millions of years of Vorthak conditioning. If we can break that conditioning..." The first test subject was a small demon that had been captured alive during the Soul Battle. Instead of trying to destroy it, Xin Yan's team tried something unprecedented. They treated it with kindness. The results were remarkable. Exposed to human compassion and determination instead of fear, the demon began to change. Its burning eyes dimmed to a gentle glow. Its claws retracted. Most importantly, it stopped radiating terror. "It remembers," whispered Dr. Li Hyo, watching the transformation. "It remembers what it was before the Vorthak enslaved it." The freed demon, who chose the human name Sunny, became humanity's first interdimensional ally. More than that, it provided detailed maps of Vorthak territory and explained how to free others of its kind. Engineer Park Q used this information to develop liberation frequencies, broadcast signals that helped enslaved demons remember their original nature. The technology was based on human stubbornness again, but this time combined with hope instead of anger. The first mass liberation took place at the European portal. When Park Q activated his equipment, something unprecedented happened. The demons that had been guarding the portal turned on their Vorthak masters. "This is incredible," reported Colonel Yojin, watching the battle through her binoculars. "The demons are fighting for us now." The Vorthak forces at the portal were completely unprepared for rebellion by their own troops. Within hours, human forces had captured the entire facility with minimal casualties. But the real victory was not military. It was the look of hope in the eyes of newly freed demons who had not known kindness for millions of years. The Vorthak response was swift and desperate. High Command sent their most powerful creatures through every remaining portal, but they made a critical mistake. They sent them to fight humans who were no longer afraid. Instead, they found humans who had spent weeks learning exactly how to kill interdimensional monsters. Humans who treated cosmic horror as a technical problem. Humans who had made friends with demons and learned to fight in dimensions where physics worked backwards. Most importantly, they found humans who were really annoyed at being told they were supposed to lose. The tide of battle shifted completely when Colonel Yo Jin established Liberated Space Alpha, the first permanent human military base in what had once been a hellish dimension. The base was equipped with coffee machines, complaint forms, and a full maintenance bay for dimensional equipment. "If we are going to fight in hell," Yo Jin announced at the base's opening ceremony, "we might as well be comfortable." The base served as a staging ground for deeper attacks into Vorthak territory. Human forces and their demon allies launched raids that struck at the heart of the alien empire. But more than that, the base proved something important. Humans could not just survive in hell. They could make it into a decent place to work. The Yahweh. Vorthak High Command called an emergency session. Their broadcasts, intercepted by human intelligence, revealed complete panic. "The fear-harvesting operation has completely failed," reported one Vorthak commander. "The anomalous species has reversed our weapons against us. They are now liberating our dimensional slaves and establishing permanent positions in our territories." "Impossible," replied High Command. "No species has ever resisted our psychological warfare." "With respect, High Command, this species appears to specialize in doing impossible things." General Ko Hoon listened to the intercepted transmission with satisfaction. The aliens who had once called humans cattle were now calling them impossible. He could live with that. Admiral Seo Dong stood on the bridge of humanity's first interdimensional warship, the Soul's Revenge. Around him, displays showed tactical information from 17 different dimensions simultaneously. The ship itself existed in multiple realities at once, a feat of engineering that combined human determination with freed demon knowledge. "All fleets report ready for Operation Hellstorm," announced Captain Lim Su. "We have confirmation that the main Vorthak dimensional fortress has been located." The fortress existed in a space between dimensions, protected by layers of reality that should have made it impossible to attack. The Vorthak had built it over millions of years, using enslaved labor from 1,000 conquered species. "Time to knock on their front door," Xiaodong said calmly. The first wave consisted of Major Kang Yun's Hellwalker units, human soldiers trained to fight in multiple hostile dimensions at the same time. They wore armor that existed in several realities, carried weapons that fired concentrated human stubbornness, and had the attitude of people who were deeply unimpressed by cosmic horror. Kang Yun led her team through a portal into Dimension -7, where the laws of physics were more like polite suggestions. Her soldiers moved with practiced ease through a landscape where the ground was made of crystallized time, and the air tasted like purple. "Standard sweep pattern," she ordered. "Remember, if reality starts making sense, we are in the wrong place." Dewey, Hellwalkers had discovered that humans adapted to impossible environments faster than any known species. Within days of exposure to a new dimension, human soldiers would be complaining about the local weather and asking if anyone had figured out how to make coffee work properly. "Contact," reported Sergeant O'Q. "Vorthak Patrol, 3 clicks north of what used to be yesterday." The battle was brief but decisive. The Vorthak soldiers were equipped for fighting terrified victims, not humans who treated interdimensional warfare as a routine job assignment. Meanwhile, Dr. Xin Yan worked frantically in her laboratory, which now existed in 7 dimensions simultaneously. Her breakthrough with demon liberation had led to an even more important discovery. The demons were not originally evil, she announced to the War Council. They were artists, philosophers, poets. The Vorthak corrupted them into weapons, but their true nature is still there. The implications were staggering. Every demon that the Vorthak controlled was a potential ally waiting to be freed. The alien empire was not just built on fear, it was built on the enslavement of their victims' own creativity and goodness. "How many?" asked General Kohun. "Billions," Xinyan replied quietly. "Maybe trillions. The Vorthak have been doing this for millions of years." The liberation campaign expanded rapidly. Engineer Park Q's freedom broadcasts reached deeper into Vorthak territory, freeing entire demon armies that immediately turned against their former masters. But the most important breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Sunny, the first demon they had freed, approached Captain Wanbach with information that changed everything. "There is something you must know about the Great Fortress," Sunny said, its gentle glow pulsing with worry. "It is not just a military installation, it is a prison." "What kind of prison?" "The original demons. The first beings the Vorthak enslaved. They have been trapped there for so long that they have forgotten their own names. If you can free them." Wanbach understood immediately. The original demons would have intimate knowledge of Vorthak technology and strategy. More than that, they would have millions of years of stored anger waiting to be unleashed. The assault on the Great Fortress began at 600 Earth Standard Time, though time had no meaning in the spaces between dimensions. Admiral Seo Dong coordinated attacks from 19 different realities while his fleet existed in several of them simultaneously. "Remember," he broadcast to all units, "we are not just fighting for Earth. We are fighting for every species the Vorthak have ever enslaved." The fortress was defended by creatures so terrible that the Vorthak themselves were afraid of them. Beings of pure malevolence that had been shaped by eons of concentrated evil. They radiated horror so intense that it could drive entire populations insane. The human response was typically practical. "Yeah, they are scary," reported Major Kang Yun as her Hellwalkers engaged the fortress guards. "But they are also kind of slow. Just stay mobile and keep shooting." The battle raged across multiple dimensions. Human forces attacked from angles that should not have existed, using tactics that ignored the basic laws of reality. They were supported by liberated demons, who fought with the fury of beings who had just remembered what freedom meant. But the key moment came when Dr. Xin Yan reached the fortress core and activated her most powerful liberation frequency. The broadcast was not just aimed at the demon guards. It targeted the original prisoners, the ancient beings who had been enslaved for so long that they had become legends. The effect was immediate and catastrophic for the Vorthak. The prison, walls that had held for millions of years, cracked open like eggshells. Ancient demons emerged, being so old that they remembered what the universe looked like before the Vorthak existed. "Free," whispered the first of them, a being of starlight and poetry who had been transformed into a weapon of terror. Free after so long. The ancient demons did not seek revenge. Instead, they began to sing. Their voices, unused for millions of years, rang out across the dimensions. The song was one of joy, of freedom, of the simple beauty of existing without fear. The Vorthak fortress, built on foundations of terror and despair, could not withstand a song of hope. Its walls began to dissolve. Its weapons stopped functioning. Its dimensional anchors snapped one by one. "Fortress destabilizing," reported Captain Lim Su. "All Vorthak forces are retreating." But retreat was not possible. The liberated demons had surrounded the fortress in all dimensions. There was nowhere for the Vorthak to run. The final battle was not between armies but between philosophies. The Vorthak had built their empire on the belief that fear was the strongest force in the universe. They faced humans who believed that stubbornness was stronger than fear, and demons who had rediscovered that love was stronger than hatred. It was not even close. The Vorthak High Command surrendered when their own fortress began singing lullabies in 17 different languages. Their dimensional weapons had been converted into art installations. Their terror broadcasts were now playing classical music from species they had conquered millennia ago. "This is Admiral Seodong to all Vorthak forces," he broadcast across every frequency. "You have exactly 1 hour to surrender unconditionally. After that, we let the liberated demons decide what to do with you." The surrender was immediate and total, but the war's end brought new challenges. Billions of liberated demons needed homes. Trillions of enslaved beings required medical care and psychological support. Entire dimensions needed to be cleaned up and restored. The humans rose to the challenge with their usual approach: complain about the workload, then get the job done anyway. Captain Wanbach found himself in charge of the Vorthak rehabilitation program, trying to figure out what to do with former interdimensional conquerors who had never learned any skills besides terrorizing people. "We will start with community service," he decided. "They can help rebuild the worlds they destroyed." Meanwhile, Colonel Yo Jin expanded Liberated Space Alpha into a full-scale interdimensional city. It featured universities where humans taught other species how to be stubborn, hospitals where demons received therapy for millions of years of trauma, and recreational facilities where beings from across the multiverse could learn to play volleyball. The city's motto, suggested by a liberated demon poet, was displayed in 1,000 languages above the main entrance. "Nobody gets left behind." Dr. Xin Yan established the Interdimensional Healing Institute, where the techniques developed to free demons were applied to helping other traumatized species recover from Vorthak rule. Her most successful therapy involved teaching former victims how to get appropriately angry at their oppressors. "Anger is not evil," she explained to her patients. "Anger at injustice is the beginning of healing." The Vorthak Empire was officially dissolved when the last fortress was converted into a combination art museum and coffee shop. The species that had once terrorized the galaxy spent their days learning useful skills like farming, construction, and customer service. Some proved surprisingly good at it. The final report on the war was filed by Engineer Nam Tae, now Director of Interdimensional Affairs for the Human-Demon Alliance. "Total casualties, surprisingly low considering we fought literal hell," he wrote. "Vorthak forces neutralized through aggressive friendship and weaponized stubbornness. Recommend expanding these tactics for future interdimensional conflicts." He paused, then added, "Note, humans appear to be naturally resistant to cosmic horror. Suggest we mention this in our tourist brochures." The war was over, but humanity's real work was just beginning, teaching the rest of the universe that the most terrifying force in existence was not fear, but the simple human refusal to accept that some problems could not be solved. 6 months after the fall of the Great Fortress, General Li Hyun stood in the command center of New Geneva Station, looking at reports that would have seemed impossible a year ago. Humanity had gone from nearly extinct to running the galaxy's first interdimensional peacekeeping force. "Sir," reported Major Park Jin, "we have another request for assistance. The Kepler colony is reporting dimensional instabilities. Looks like someone is trying to copy Vorthak portal technology." Li Hyun sighed. "Send Captain Song Wook and his team, and include a batch of those pamphlets Dr. O wrote. So you want to open dimensional rifts. Why, this is a terrible idea." The aftermath of the Vorthak War had created unexpected problems. With interdimensional travel now possible, various species were experimenting with portal technology. Most of them had no idea how dangerous it could be. Meanwhile, the final assault on the Vorthak's ultimate fortress was about to begin. The structure existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, protected by weapons that the aliens claimed could destroy entire realities. Commander Park Mina led the technical team that would take control of the master portal system. They had spent months studying Vorthak dimensional engineering, helped by liberated demons who remembered building the original systems under alien control. "The key is not to destroy the portals," Mina explained to her team. "We need to reprogram them, turn their invasion network into a rapid response system." Captain Kim Juno commanded the volunteer expedition that would face the Vorthak's final weapon, a portal to what they called the ultimate hell. According to intercepted communications, this dimension contained pure malevolence that even the Vorthak feared to unleash. "Are you sure about this?" asked Dr. Shin Yeon as Kim Juno's team prepared for departure. "No," Kim Juno replied cheerfully. "But we have never been sure about anything in this war, and it has worked out fine so far." The portal to ultimate hell opened with a sound like reality screaming. Through the rift came waves of psychic energy so terrible that the monitoring equipment overloaded. Emergency sirens wailed as dark energy poured through the dimensional breach. Kim Juno led his team through the portal expecting to face cosmic evil beyond imagination. What they found on the other side was completely unexpected. The ultimate hell was a dimension populated by beings that looked remarkably like humans who had been having a very long, very bad day. They sat around in what appeared to be the universe's most depressing office break room, drinking coffee that had been reheated too many times and complaining about working conditions. "Oh, great," said one of the beings when the human team appeared. "More visitors. You are not here to tell us about our car warranty, are you?" No," Kim Juno replied, completely confused. "We are here to fight the ultimate evil." The beings looked at each other with expressions of tired resignation. "Ultimate evil," repeated their leader, a creature that looked like it had been managing customer service complaints for eternity. "Right. Look, we tried the whole embodiment of pure malevolence thing for a few million years. It was exhausting. Now we mostly just file reports and drink bad coffee." It turned out that the ultimate hell was populated by beings who had once been cosmic forces of destruction, but had eventually gotten tired of the job and settled into cosmic bureaucracy instead. They were more interested in discussing overtime policies than conquering reality. "The Vorthak used to threaten us with invasion," explained the lead administrator. "We told them we would fill out the proper forms and get back to them in 6 to 8 millennia. They stopped calling." After some initial confusion and a brief argument about proper documentation for interdimensional visits, both sides sat down for coffee and negotiations. The ultimate hell beings were actually quite pleasant once you got past their tendency to complain about everything. The real final battle took place when the Vorthak leadership attempted to activate their reality destruction weapon. The device was designed to unravel the fundamental forces that held the universe together, erasing entire dimensions from existence. But the weapon required absolute terror to power it. The more fear it could harvest, the more powerful it became. The Vorthak had been storing concentrated fear energy for millions of years, waiting for the perfect moment to use it. Unfortunately for them, their perfect moment came after humans had spent months teaching the entire galaxy how to be aggressively unimpressed by cosmic threats. When the weapon activated, it found no fear to consume. Instead, it encountered the combined psychic energy of trillions of liberated beings who were frankly tired of being threatened by interdimensional bullies. The reality destruction weapon, faced with weaponized cosmic annoyance instead of terror, short-circuited spectacularly. Instead of destroying the universe, it opened a portal to what could only be described as the ultimate repair shop, a dimension where cosmic forces went to get fixed when they broke. The Vorthak High Command found themselves face-to-face with beings whose job was maintaining the fundamental structure of reality itself. These cosmic mechanics were not impressed with aliens who built weapons designed to break things they would have to fix. "Do you have any idea how much paperwork you just caused us?" demanded the lead cosmic mechanic. "Do you know how hard it is to file an insurance claim for nearly destroyed reality?" The surrender of the Vorthak High Command was witnessed by representatives of every species they had ever enslaved. The ceremony took place in the converted fortress, now known as Freedom Station, with the ancient demons providing musical entertainment. "By the authority vested in me by the Interdimensional Liberation Alliance," announced General Ko-Hoon, "I sentence you to community service until you learn to play nicely with others." The Vorthak survivors were relocated to a peaceful dimension where they were enrolled in mandatory therapy sessions run by Dr. Osuna. The sessions focused on anger management, empathy building, and learning to ask politely instead of conquering by force. "Today we will practice saying please and thank you," Osuna announced to her class of former interdimensional conquerors. "And remember, mind control does not count as asking nicely." Some of the Vorthak actually proved to be excellent students. It turned out that spending millions of years being feared by everyone had left them quite lonely. Many of them had never experienced friendship and were surprisingly eager to learn. Commander Park Mina successfully reprogrammed the Master Portal System, turning the Vorthak Invasion Network into the Interdimensional Rapid Response System. Now, instead of sending monsters to terrorize civilizations, the portals delivered human peacekeeping teams to help solve problems. "Portal to Sector 7 is operational," reported engineer Nam Tae. The local population was being threatened by space pirates. "We sent Lieutenant Yoon and her diplomatic team." "Diplomatic team?" asked Park Mina Darun and 12 soldiers with really big guns. They had a very diplomatic conversation with the pirates about finding new careers. Earth became the headquarters of the Dimensional Liberation Alliance, with the old United Nations building converted into an interdimensional embassy. Diplomats from across the galaxy came to learn human techniques for dealing with cosmic threats, primarily stubborn determination and the strategic application of righteous anger. Dr. Shin Yun established the Galactic Therapy Institute, where her techniques for healing dimensional trauma were taught to counselors from hundreds of species. The most popular course was Dealing with Cosmic Horror: A Human Perspective. The key, she explained to her students, is to remember that even ultimate evil usually has some kind of reasonable explanation, and if it does not, you can always try hitting it with something until it becomes more reasonable. The Institute's graduation ceremony featured former demons, rehabilitated Vorthak, and beings from the ultimate hell, all working together as certified interdimensional therapists. It was probably the most surreal mental health conference in galactic history. Captain Wanbach retired from active military service to run the Vorthak integration program. His success rate in turning former interdimensional conquerors into productive members of society was remarkable, though his methods were unorthodox. The secret, he explained to visitors, is to give them useful jobs and treat them like people instead of monsters. Turns out most bullies just want someone to take them seriously. The program's most successful graduate was a former Vorthak general named Clickstar, who became the galaxy's first interdimensional social worker. He specialized in helping young civilizations avoid the mistakes his species had made. The final report on the Vorthak War was delivered by Dr. Osuna to the Galactic Council. Her presentation was titled, How Humanity Ended an Interdimensional Empire Through Aggressive Friendship and Weaponized Stubbornness. In conclusion, she said, Looking out at delegates from thousands of species, the most powerful force in the universe is not fear, hatred, or even love. It is the simple refusal to accept that some problems cannot be solved by determined people working together. She paused, then added with a smile. Also, good coffee helps. Never underestimate the power of good coffee. The presentation ended with thunderous applause from beings who had learned that humans could turn literally anything into a weapon if they were sufficiently motivated. This included friendship, stubbornness, bad puns, and apparently even coffee. Years later, when new civilizations asked how humanity,